Before I call the May 1st meeting of the Board of Education to order, Jennifer Richardson has something she'd like to say to the board. And
Is this on? Yeah. All right, as many of you know, New Canaan High School had a huge event this weekend, the New Canaan Color Run, our first ever. In the past, I don't know if you all know, but in the past, the New Canaan Scholarship Foundation went door to door asking for funds from the community to support the Scholarship Foundation at the high school, and this was the 50th year. So we decided to shake it up and make it a color run, and it was a huge success, and I really just wanted to thank the community, the parents, the town. It was amazing. Such enthusiastic support from everyone. We had about 1,200 participants of all ages. Even a few board members took place in the run. They're still complaining of having paint in their ears and all over their clothes and everything. We were able to raise over $100,000, which is amazing. And we're still kind of going through all the numbers, so we'll have those numbers for everybody pretty soon. And I really just wanted to thank, again, the town, but also the people that made it happen, because we had people that went over and above. Like John Howe from the town was amazing, Steve Banco, Jay Egan, Bill Egan, Stan from the high school, and Anthony, like so many people that helped us, and especially the parents who threw the color and everything. So I really wanted to say thank you. Everyone had a blast, and I wanted to show one last photo of two other people that really seemed to have a blast as well. So thank you to everyone. Yeah. It was awesome. So thank you to everyone for making it such a success.
okay, thanks so much, Jen, for all your efforts on behalf of the Scholarship Foundation. It was a great event. Okay, so I would now like to call the May 1st meeting of the Board of Education to order. The first item is the approval of our minutes from the April 17th meeting. You have before you a copy of the minutes, and if you've had a chance to review them, if I could get a motion to approve the minutes from our April 17th meeting. Jen, second. Brendan, all those in favor? We have one abstention. Okay.
Could I just make one comment? Which I regarding the minutes. And I just want to thank the Sachs PTC for their incredible generosity and support of the Sachs Middle School project. I couldn't be here when we accepted their donation, and it's an important donation and will really help bring the final touches to the auditorium. And they have been supportive of the project throughout. And so my appreciation to all the parents at Sachs and to everyone else who has supported this project.
Okay. Thank you. All right. The next item is the review and approval of the agenda. We have one switch we'd like to make on the agenda. If we could put the K-12 district technology update after the recognition and have the enrollment report last. Could I get a motion to approve? Penny. Second. Jen. All those in favor? Okay. And then if I could get a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Penny. Brendan. All those in favor? Okay. Thank you. All right. Comments from the public. To ensure the public's right to be heard, the board has set aside time during the meeting for public comments. 2 minutes will be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 15 minutes to each subject. Do I have anyone who would like to address the board this evening? Seeing none, we'll move into reports and recognition. The first item on our agenda for reports and recognition is the appreciation for Tom Brown and Patrick Manalfi. If they could come forward to the podium, that would be great. So we have here 2 certificates. I guess let me read them to you, and then I'll give you a little history. The certificates read that they are awarded to Thomas Brown and Patrick Manalfi in recognition of actions on April 20th, 2017, which resulted in the saving of a student's life. I can't tell you how, unbelievably moved I was by this story, and I'm sure everyone in the district was as well. On April 20th, Mr. Brown and Mr. Manalfi responded swiftly to a student who was choking, and they took turns performing the Heimlich maneuver until the student coughed up the bottle cap that he had swallowed. And thanks to their training and swift action, they saved a young New Canaan High School student's life. And I just wanted you to know, I'm sure you're aware that the students' parents are here, Linda and Tim Gordon, to show their appreciation for your actions. And the board was just immediately moved when we heard this story. I'd also like the public to be aware that I believe that the police are also submitting a Civilian Service Award recognition on behalf of your actions as well. So thank you very much. I'd like to, and if you could come forward, and why don't you guys come forward and get your, and please shake everyone's hand, please. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, if you want to, everybody would like to recognize you, so if you could shake everyone's hand. Okay. Does anyone else have anything to say before I move on? Sure, Jen, go ahead.
Mr. Brown,
Oh, wait, don't leave yet.
can I just tell you guys, I know I said it to you in person, but we are just so grateful to have people like you that can step up and do something like that. We are so, that's incredible. What an incredible story. So thank you so much from all the parents. We're so lucky to have you here. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Don't
leave yet.
I'll
Don't
just
leave
quickly
yet.
share.
Don't leave. They're very humble. They're very humble.
They have dinner plans, I'm sure. I just want to quickly share that, well, first of all, how fortunate we are for the both of you as retired officers to be with us, and really for all of our campus monitors and all of our folks throughout the district that spend so much time in training and preparation for the emergency that you hope will never happen. And I think this is an example of why we do all of that training that we do, why we are prepared for what can happen. And the right people were at the right place at the right time with the right training and skills. And as a result, a young man's still here with us today, which may not have been the case had you not been there and had you not had those years of training and that experience that you do have. So I think it's compliment certainly to the two of you, and I think it speaks also of the training that we do and the people we look for when we hire our campus monitors and when we, work with the folks that we have. We've got wonderful people in our district in all positions, and we're very fortunate to have the two of you on board as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now you can go have dinner.
Thank you. All right, so the next item on our agenda is the K through 12 District Technology Update with Mr. Salvestrini.
Good evening, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Matt Salvestrini, who will be giving us an overview of the technology K through 12, giving us an update on how we're making progress towards our district goals. We're also very fortunate to have our technology integrators here with us this evening, and I know Mr. Salvestrini will be introducing them as well. But thank you for coming out this evening. It's greatly appreciated, and we look forward to your presentation, Matt.
Thank you very much, Dr. Correnti. Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to provide for you a technology update and to share with you the steps that we're taking to support teaching and learning through the use of technology. So before I begin, I would really like to take a minute, as Dr. Correnti had shared, to introduce to you the individuals to my left. So seated here in the front row, even though they asked to sit in the second row, I had them sit in the front row, are the K-12 technology integrators. So much of what I'm going to be sharing tonight describes the work that our TIs are engaged in each day. And much of what has been initiated, what is being incorporated and is being supported by our dedicated and talented team, I'll share with you a little later on. But I'll be walking you through the presentation, but I want to make sure you have an opportunity to ask them any questions that you would like to ask of them at the end. So, but I'd like to start by introducing each of them. So starting with our elementary team, we have Mr. Rob Poley at East. We have Ms. Ronna Van Vagel at South. Ms. Stephanie Somerville at West. At Saks, our newest addition to our technology integration team, Mr. George Petrokopoulos. Mr. Clint McLeod supports 3 different buildings, Saks, East, and South, and puts a lot of miles on his car in the process, but he loves it. At the high school, we have Mr. Tom Honahan and Miss Alexa Schlechter, who could not be with us this evening. So before I proceed, I think it's worth revisiting what these individuals do across our schools. We have a very special resource in these technology integrators, and we continue to do our best to leverage their passions, their experience to benefit our teachers and our students. So you'll see that some bullets just flashed down in front of you, and I wanted to highlight some of the things that you see there, beginning with supporting instruction, providing leadership through direct conversations with teachers, but also professional learning opportunities, assisting in the development and implementation of curriculum, providing direct instruction, of course, at the elementary level, but also at times at the middle and high school as well. They serve as important liaisons between administrators, teachers, and our district technology services. They're an important part of our budget planning process. They give us feedback on the types of resources that we're using well, we're leveraging well, and ones that we might want to look to discontinue so we continue to be very fiscally responsible in our work. And of course, co-plan, co-teach, and collaborate with teachers. So with this team, what are our goals? Ultimately, our goals are the district goals, and to increase student learning as first and foremost. And underneath that one, we have described and listed here that all students will graduate with the technological knowledge and skills to succeed in a dynamic and complex global society. And there's some steps that we identified at the beginning of this year that we wanted to take over these 10 months, and I've just put them up there for you. I'll be talking a little bit about the work that our District Technology Committee is engaged in. We're also investigating the opportunities and the potential for setting up a library learning commons district-wide. We're in the learning stages with that. This past December, Ms. Hannah and I came in and gave you an update on digital citizenship. Certainly you're familiar with that. So we continue to monitor the implementation of digital citizenship instruction K-12 and look to expand that integration through 9 through 12. And then we're looking for opportunities to investigate furthering our online opportunities for students at the high school, and also investigating the potential use of a learning management system to support teaching and learning with our students. So I thought it would be helpful to share a few quotes that I believe sum up our philosophy and our role in technology and education to help illustrate the mindset that we have and keep with us as we go about our work. So to start with this one from Bill Gates, and this one really focuses on that it's the teachers that affect change with our students above all else. And so that is at the center of what we do in our work. I know they're called technology integrators, but it's really about supporting the teachers in their work that they do with students. Here, in this quote, software changes, and it's a tool, and it changes year to year, and it seems that now the software changes even day to day sometimes. So to focus on the technology is the wrong priority. For us, it's really about helping teachers understand how to use the tools. So here, the focus is on the training. What is the best way that we can help support teachers in learning how to use technology as they design and deliver instruction? And in this quote, I think the theme here is that technology amplifies learning, okay? That it broadens and deepens it. You'll see this in the next several slides as we look at our national standards and our own individual standards. But the idea is that it is about knowledge, building knowledge, and the students' ability to communicate and share it effectively, efficiently, and responsibly. So the next slide here really further illustrates the shift that we've undergone. I don't imagine this is necessarily new for you, for all of you, and this is probably a conversation that you may have had before. But as these slides roll out, I'm hoping you'll see from the left-hand column how we used to regard technology to how we are seeing the integration of technology. And those highlighted words were engaged students, a higher level thinking, using technology to learn rather than learning to use technology, and technology used to facilitate collaboration and communication. These are the concepts that we continue to focus on, that these technology integrators are focusing on in their conversations and work with teachers. So ISTE stands for International Society for Technology Education. And in 2016, ISTE revised their standards for technology and education. And in doing so, they shifted to really focus on the learning and teaching that, as I said before, is really amplified through the use of technology. What you see here, both are listed on the left, the 7 standards, and in that visual, are digital age standards, not technology standards. Okay, we've moved past technology standards. So seeing this new rollout over the summer, our team was prompted to reflect on what we had, okay? And we saw an opportunity to revisit it and update it. And you'll see here in this graphic, I want to point out 2 things. First of all, I'd like to walk you through the 5 standards that we've identified: inquiry and information fluency, creative communication and collaboration, technology for productivity, literacy appreciation and independent learning, and digital citizenship. So first of all, I'd like to talk about the graphic. It's a flower petal, right? With the center of it is student learning, okay? And the idea is that all of these standards are connected directly and an important part of student learning, all right? And that this technology should be an organic piece of the learning process. I did have one member of my team who was a Navy person who said it looks like a propeller, not a pedal, but I think I shifted his thinking along those lines. These standards are utilized by both our library media teachers and our technology integrators, but I don't see, and the darker blue ones really focus a little bit more on those library standards, but they're not mutually exclusive, okay? And so this is how we revised our standards, and I think if you flip back to the national standards, you'll see some connection. Certainly digital citizenship is reflected in both the ISTE standards and ours, as well as the importance of creative communication and collaboration, among others. So here's a snapshot of what that curriculum document looks like, our curriculum framework. Our team worked very hard this year to, as I said, revisit what we have and make it as rich and robust and relevant as possible. We built off of our previous standards, but we also looked to push ourselves to incorporate new understandings and new expectations in this document. We incorporated essential understandings and essential questions in there. We also established learning outcomes at key grade levels for each standard. So as we have collaborative conversations with teachers, as we look at the curriculum planning and look at incorporating experiences into the classroom, we have these reference points for our work. Now, with these standards in hand, we engage in our work with teachers. And in doing that, we employ some models to help us illustrate how technology can be incorporated into instruction. For many of you, I don't think this graphic or this model is new, the SAMR model, but it helps us gauge how technology is being used to support learning. And if you look at it, it describes a progression of technology integration. At the lower levels, more fundamental use of technology, as you move up to more transformative experiences. So I want to be clear about something here. I think it's important to share that we don't expect all teaching to be at that highest level, that transformative level. There should be different types of experiences and different types of integration of technology, okay? But what we are trying to do is help teachers understand the different types of integration and also understand the power of those different transformative types of experiences as they go about designing their lessons. Another model that we use in collaborating with teachers is called TPAC. Now, if you look at the center of this graphic at the three intersecting circles, TPAC stands for technological, pedagogical, content knowledge, okay? And in this graphic, it really helps teachers see that technical knowledge is a level of understanding of its own, much like content knowledge and their understanding of pedagogy, okay? And that teachers may be at different levels of proficiency in their technology understanding and their understanding of how to integrate technology. And that there is a balance that we're looking for, where there's a balance between the integration of technology, pedagogy, and content, okay? So we can have conversations about, help them reflect on what their levels of understanding are, okay? And how technology can support their design of instruction and their delivery of content. So I've talked a lot about our standards. I've talked quite a little bit about our philosophy. I thought a picture is worth 1,000 words, in this case, a video. So we've put together a short video here for you to let you see what it looks like day to day with our students.
It really improved everything that you need to know, and as technology, the technology classes, it really improved everything that you need to know, and as technology advances through the years, it becomes easier and easier because you need to know the basics, and that's what we're learning. So knowing that knowledge, it can help you build on others.
The project was about fake information, and so we basically did a kind of little skit commercial to inform our parents about what fake news is, and we explained 3 sites that you can trust on the internet.
To get started, we are going to explain what fake news is. So, fake news is a news story that isn't true, obviously. My problem with fake news
The Great Pyramids of Egypt, well, they're about 492 feet tall.
It's different than traditional teaching because you can see everybody's answers more, and the teacher can put up the best answer more clear, almost so you know what to do better.
And then when you were done with the group, you had to pick kind of a theme, and Adobe was really cool because it was different than Google Slides, and it allowed you to kind of use technology in a different way.
We got to use iPads, and usually we have to write all that down, and it was easier because everyone got to work on the same document, so it wasn't like everyone had to read off each other, so it was easier that way.
We did an iMovie project in Spanish where we had to take 4 photos from different times in our lives and talk about them in Spanish, and it was really fun to make an iMovie because you could use different musics and sounds, and it was fun to show different parts of your life to the class.
Hola, el año es 2005. Yo nací en Stanford. Mi cumpleaños es el 23 de diciembre. Yo tengo 0.
I could not imagine learning without technology. It impacts my learning environment every single day. I use Google Drive to constantly collaborate and complete projects for all of my classes. I also like to use PowerPoint and Excel to complete my presentations. My computer also acts as a very effective research tool, which is always available at my disposal.
So as I bring it to a close, I wanted to bring us back to the district goals. And at the beginning of the presentation, I had shared that we were putting together, bringing back together a district technology committee. So in the fall, we brought together a team of teachers, administrators, and curriculum coordinators to review our existing technology plan. First step was to look at the plan and say, well, what do we feel like we've accomplished, and what do we feel are still goals that we need to work on? And then we worked as teams to build off of that, and then start to imagine, well, where do we want to go? How do we want to push ourselves and challenge ourselves to utilize technology moving forward? We're currently working in teams, goal-specific teams, in the areas that you see above here, and my hope is that we have some information to share with you about what our steps are moving forward, what our plan is for the next several years. It's been exciting. It's been a great opportunity to work with teachers and administrators and curriculum coordinators, and also to hear what their hopes and their dreams are with utilizing technology to support the good work that we're doing here. So in addition to that, some of the next steps that we're working on here are looking at identifying meaningful assessments so we can gauge student progress K-12. Also looking at further opportunities and more opportunities to integrate technology into student assessment. Continuing to collaborate with teachers as they plan their instruction, as they design their units of study, and discuss how they can incorporate technology in meaningful ways. You saw in the resources that we use in those types of conversations. Also continuing to evaluate how we're doing in our moving up that ladder and transforming learning for our students. We continue to investigate the opportunities for both online learning and the potential use of a learning management system to support our instructional mission. And a learning management system is sort of a one-stop spot for students where they can go for their coursework. They can keep their information. They can look at their grades. Teachers can design entire courses in this learning management system. And one of the subcommittees that we have as a part of our district technology committee is looking into that right now. So that wraps up my update. At this point in time, I welcome any questions that you might have. And if you'd like to direct them either towards me or towards any of our technology integrators, if you have sort of level-specific questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Salvestrini. It's a very exciting area the district is moving to, has been moving toward over the last few years, and so I'm sure there are a few questions from members of the board. Brendan.
On the learning management system, what are the sorts of things that you're looking for, and are there particular concerns that you have over choosing one path versus another? Are you locked in for 5-10 years if you pick one particular path versus another?
Right. Right now, what we do, the team is working to identify specific things that they want to look for in the exemplary learning management system. So what do we need to have? What would a management system have to have in order to meet our instructional expectations? Okay. So how would we want to be able to integrate some of the good work that we've already done? Their teachers are already using other resources. How can we migrate that over? What type of experience do we want to have for students in that space? What are some of the functions that we want teachers to be able to have? So really what we're doing right now is we've been working on setting up a list of questions that we can ask those potential vendors and contractors and say, well, talk to us about this. And then we will start to go out and compare their responses to those questions to what our needs are. Okay? So really, we're really focusing on what's the type of teaching and learning that we want this to be able to support first. Okay.
Penny?
I was just wondering if technology was enabling us to get, assistance across classes. I remember when I did one of the technology tours a couple of years ago, I think it was an elementary, it was a Sachs math teacher, and she took her lessons and broke them down, the different sections of it, and broke it down into maybe 1-minute videos discussing integers or whatever, addition, subtraction, and then had it up on her class's website. And they were terrific. A couple of the instructional videos we saw, they were great. And of course, since the curriculum's the same for a variety of classes, I was wondering if there had been anything like that where teachers were sort of splitting it up and sharing it across classes, or, what types of collaborations we were finding.
I think you're referring to the flipped classroom where they watch videos at home and then come in and discuss it in class.
These were, that might be where she's gone now. These
Okay.
were just additional,
Yeah.
if you didn't understand it in class, you could check out her little video that evening.
And that practice is growing at SACS. A few teachers have been doing it, and I think Clint and I have been doing it as well with some of our lessons, because we can't be in multiple places at the same time, so we also often flip our lessons and provide them to the teachers, and they'll show them to the class. And if there are issues, troubleshooting issues, we'll come in and deal with those. So that has been, it's a growing practice.
Tom, I believe, aren't some teachers at the high school are doing some things as well?
So one thing, instead of doing like a standard presentation with PowerPoint, some kids were given choice to create, how do you best deliver this knowledge? So some students were actually creating videos to drive home a particular topic, and I've seen it in a chemistry class where, again, I would say, if not all of them, chose to make a video of how do I drive home that particular topic. So it's not just about teachers sharing with teachers, it's students sharing with students is, what's the best way to learn this? And other teachers have been creating their own video tutorials. So the sharing part I think we can get a little bit better at, but it's with Google Drive, it's so much easier to share.
Anyone else?
In fourth grade, can I add? In fourth grade, we teach the students how to create a website using Google Sites. And part of the way that they can choose to learn is through video tutorials, which we create and post so the students can access them. So that's, we break down all the steps of how to add content to your site, pictures and whatnot. And that's one of the ways that they can learn how to create their site.
Jen?
I have a question, but I also want to add to the whole flipped classroom thing. So my son, when he's in BC Calc, Mrs. Lee, and it's amazing. Like at first, I'm like, I completely don't understand how this is getting done, because they actually watch the video, or they take a quiz on what happened, what they learned the day before, and they do it in all these. They're in groups going over the videos that they learned the night before. Mm-hmm. So they're kind of learning with the videos that she made. And then they go in these groups and they do group work together, and then the next day they do quizzes on like what they learned. It's actually pretty amazing. But she is using technology. I'm like my AP World, they're using technology, so it's actually really cool, at least that I'm seeing in high school. So a couple things about the high school, just because that's where my kids are, and they have devices. So a couple things I hear from parents, and just to kind of get it out there, like I know. I hear how do you keep the kids from being distracted and going on their apps and like all that stuff when we are allowing these things in the classroom, because I know, like this, people ask that quite often. And then, just from being here so often lately, like I just find the Wi-Fi a little spotty, so I'm not sure if people in the classrooms talk about that at all. But, so I'm just curious about that.
Well, I would say for the first thing about how do we help students keep them from being distracted by their apps, I think that really comes down to the conversations, the work we're doing with in our digital citizenship conversations, because that's a challenge for any one of us in this room, much less the students in school. So I think what we try to do is try to really have that conversation about, well, what are the choices you need to make to manage your time so you can be effective, okay? And then making sure that we are available to have conversations with students and make sure we have space for that type of conversation, because that's a challenge for all of us, right? For the Wi-Fi access, my first question was, where were you where you didn't have good access? Is one of my questions.
In many places.
Yeah. And I think I would go back to we are prioritizing where we try to have. I think we have very good coverage here in the high school. I think we prioritize the learning spaces first and foremost. And so we make sure we have that robust, consistent coverage in those areas. And we've been working, based on feedback that we've gotten from students even, to broaden that Wi-Fi access to areas where they may be comfortable doing work, maybe if they're in an area where they're waiting to do an after-school athletic event or something like that, based on feedback that we've been getting from them. Okay, but really try to prioritize that piece about making sure we have it in those real key learning areas.
Right. And then just one other thing, have you seen, like I know we're doing our bring your own device in the high school, like have you seen any movement towards the lower schools and any of our surrounding areas, or like in the middle school, or are you seeing mostly everyone having their own device in high schools, like just from your...
Well, I think different districts take their different courses. I think what we're really looking to do next year is to make sure that we provide consistent resources for students. One of our goals is to make sure, especially in those liberal arts classrooms that we have in language arts and social studies, we'll have one device for one student in there. And I think right now our thinking in the middle school is really we want the devices to be available for students. We've gotten feedback from the teachers and the curriculum coordinators about how we can make sure we have the types and the number of devices available for students, while also making sure that we have the type of supervision that we want to have in the middle school. Okay, so we really think that the plan for moving forward for next year is going to provide the type of resources for students, while also making sure that I think it's a graduated responsibility, right? And I think in the middle school, we really what we're looking forward to is providing the resource while also making sure we have that close supervision as well.
It's pretty amazing. Like they're just hopping right on that Google Docs, and it's writing all their papers on Docs, and she's 12.
Right. So the idea is that the student would walk into their English classroom, they could pick the device out of the cart,
right.
They use it for the period, they return it to the cart so the next class uses it, and then the next classroom they go to, there'll be some resources there available for them as well.
And just to add on to that very quickly, Matt, I think you're exactly right. Each district has taken a slightly different approach, right? So, for instance, last year I toured the Greenwich schools with some folks, and they've gone K-12 and different devices, iPad and the K-5, I believe, and then 6 through 12 was Chromebooks. Other districts have gone sort of 6 through 12 Chromebooks and sort of provided by the district in different ways, I think. But each district has done it a little bit differently based on their students, their population, their community. So I think that, we've said it before, the studies that we've done through the years, where we've said we like to be on the cutting edge, but not necessarily the bleeding edge. We take our time and sort of plan it out, but we look to see what will work the best in our environment. But I think it's interesting to look around. There's not one model that's sort of this is the thing to do. I think it is sort of a product of the environment and the community and the schools. But we've seen neighboring districts, that have gone K-12 in a variety of different ways. Actually, I say K because it's easier, but it's like 3rd through 12. And then K-1-2, they'll often keep the device in the classroom, and the students pick it up when they get it.
Thank you.
I'm curious about, a couple of things. Outcomes, any impact on student grades and such. If the students, I know we're trying to teach them to be self-directed and make good decisions, but they don't always do that. So are you noticing anything impacting grades or progress report comments? I've heard from parents say that, the comments that are coming back on the report cards that their students are distracted in class. So that was one thing, and there was that study at West Point where they did a course using online access and no access to computers, and the students with the access did not do as well. So I'm wondering how you're looking at that. And the other thing is, how are you getting feedback from families and also across classes? And as a K-8 computer teacher, I see this myself. If every teacher is using a computer in the classroom, the students are getting a lot of screen time, and then they go home and every assignment is on the computer. It's more screen time, and we know that impacts sleep patterns. So how are you tracking how much time kids are on? And are you getting feedback from families?
I would say that for the amount of time the students are using the computer, there's a good balance. I think there's a healthy balance that if you were to walk through either the middle school or the high school, you would see some classrooms where the students are using those devices, and then other classrooms where they're not. And it depends on the type of work that they need to do for that day. I certainly think that for what we've been seeing is that there's been a good balance so far when it comes to, if we walk through the classrooms and look at what's going on across the buildings. So I think that teachers also understand, that they're not looking to just have students use the device all the time. Okay? So that it does come, and that comes back to part of our conversations that we have with the students, the teachers rather, when we collaborate with them and plan with them. It's that integration of the technology in really meaningful, targeted, valuable ways. Okay? I think that answered one part of your question. To go back to the feedback that we've been gathering, the feedback we get, especially at the high school, really comes back through the collaboration we have with the teachers, the conversations we have with students in the classroom. Sometimes it's even just as they socialize and hang out either in the cafeteria or down in the library is the feedback we get in that regard. So a lot of the feedback we've been getting has been from the teachers and the students themselves right now.
And just to build off that just a little bit, there's some articles and there's some research out there about personalized learning, and they talk about it's another way to me in lots of ways when I read and see what they're talking about online learning. This idea that students come in, they're staring at a screen all day, and they're online with all of their classes, and that's absolutely not what we're talking about. That's not the direction that we go in when we talk about BYOD and having students with devices. We're really talking about teaching them to use it authentically in the classroom with an understanding that learning is generally a social endeavor. Our students, we don't have them sitting quietly staring at a screen in a class generally. What they're doing is working with each other. They might open something up, use it for a few minutes, use it for 10 minutes, use it for a period, close it back down, get together, work with that material. But it's a tool in the classroom for teachers to use, but it's not the only one. They're still using the right pedagogy, grouping, collaborative work, differentiation, other things in the room that make it effective. I do hear some of my colleagues, not locally here, but in some other broader conversations, talking about personalized learning as every student, with their own learning plan on their device that's unique to them, and they're doing it. And I shudder a little bit at the thought because, again, I think we all know learning is something we do together in classrooms. There's certainly an individual part, but a lot of it is built constructively in a classroom with colleagues or the teacher as a mentor and a guide. And that's our vision of that classroom, that it makes it more dynamic and more engaging for the students, certainly not less. You mentioned sleep as well, and I just got back last week from an adolescent sleep conference down in Washington, D.C., so lots more information to share about that. But there are important considerations with all of that, and I think we'll be discussing, in the weeks ahead, pieces of information about this, adolescent sleep. And the conference itself was about school start time, so I'm not going to take us off track here. We'll talk about that at a different time. But this idea of light, right? Whether it's from the screen or in the room, whatever it is, and that being around light can turn off the production of melatonin, which could keep students up. So one of the questions I asked and the scientists were presenting, what have you, are there different kinds of light? And they said, well, yeah, blue light is the worst, which is what comes from screens. So I just noticed recently that Apple and iPads, I don't know about other machines, but they have an option called, is it night shift, right? And what that does is turn off the blue light on the screen. They said all light do have an effect, but blue light is what channels straight through. So, as we continue to learn more and more about the technology and sort of how to best manage it and work with it, we'll continue to get better and better, I think, at the work that we're doing.
And I think I would add too, I have seen a lot of great things. I mean, it's great the kids just pull together a Hamlet skit, in no time flat, and they're posting it and they're editing. There's so much they can just do, so that's been really neat to see. I think it would be good to survey parents at home to see how late they're on device. I mean, it is I know personally it's been kind of a challenge because they're not only on one device, they're on two. Mm-hmm. and the collaboration's part of it. But also, as you transition to an online learning system, how do we involve families in that? I don't see a lot of work now unless I log into Google or Moodle. So is there a way to make parents more part of that? I mean, they're still only high school. So, and I would just put that as a recommendation as you go towards the learning management. They're not in college, you know, they're still in high school. We still like to see what they're doing. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I had a couple questions. The first, with this learning management system that you're looking into, do we have districts around us that have already adopted systems, and, you know, are you sort of looking to them for best practices and things like that with?
Yes, there are many districts in the area that use different types of learning management systems. We know that some neighbors of ours, you know, Westport uses Schoology, Greenwich uses Schoology. We have them on our list of people to contact as we move down further through the process. I think right now we're just at the stage of saying, what are our standards that we want, whatever resource that we may invest in, to be able to meet, and then we'll go from there. But certainly, as we move down as we progress, we would be reaching out to them and having conversations, and even you know, visiting them and seeing what it looks like and how successful it is for them.
I think as a parent, I think it'll be wonderful when we finally get there, you know, because I think right now we're on so many different, each educator has their own, you know, area of expertise and system that they like, and which is great, but, you know, to speak to the parent side.
Right, and it's back to your question, it should offer a one location for students and one location for parents as well. Okay, so the goal of that is to manage all of this learning in a way where it's easier for the entire community, you know, teachers, students, and parents. So that's what we're looking at. And there are some learning management systems that are out there that don't integrate, for example, the Power School in the way we want it to. So there are not serious considerations for us then, right? So that's the criteria we're setting forward for that.
Thank you. And I wanted to just, this is our first full year of BYOD throughout the entire high school. And I wanted to actually go back to just, you know, we have promised all the students that if they didn't purchase a device for themselves or weren't able to, that the district would provide that for them. What do you have a sense for what percentage of in the high school kids are taking advantage of the school device, and how is the insurance program working and things like that?
Sure. Tom, you want us to talk about that?
Do you want exact numbers? There's about 37
I'm impressed you know it all.
devices. I do. There's about 37 devices. It's a variety. So the predominant amount of the loaners went to seniors that didn't want to purchase a device, which was understanding, of which the Chromebooks were kind of the first batch that went out. The second wave was my device broke, and I'd like to have a replacement for a couple of days or weeks, or some situations months, and we were able to fulfill pretty much all of that. So it was after the initial piece, it really tapered off into the second semester. Just asking the students, they liked the small form factor of the Chromebook. The PC laptop that we had was an off-lease device that was a little bit larger and just a little bit heavier. But no complaints on, you know, I can't do my work because I have one device or the other, which was refreshing to hear.
Okay. So that's not bad, 37 out of, you know, 1,400 plus students. Yeah, okay. Thank you. And then my last question is around teacher development and sort of, you know, how are you sort of managing probably the various levels of expertise with technology, and, you know, could you kind of go into how you're segmenting your teacher development a little bit?
Well, that was a big piece of feedback that we had heard from teachers when we were looking at the budget process for this year and having a conversation saying we really want to focus on developing understanding of how to utilize and integrate the technology tools that we already have in place. So that was, I think, to your point, teachers were giving us some feedback in that area. And we use a variety of ways to try to get a sense of what teachers need. We have some areas where we're developing and cultivating our teacher technology leaders in the building and having them work with our tech integrators to provide differentiated professional learning for staff. I might pass it over to Ms. Somerville to have her talk a little bit about that over at West. So you did see a video of Mrs. Vagel providing some professional learning at the South faculty meeting. And so that was sort of a larger whole group. But maybe I could pass it down the line and have people share any experiences they would like with the board.
I'm just going to jump on first since I've got the mic. Actually, last week we just interviewed the entire staff, kind of a culmination survey where are you at, where do you want to go, what worked, what didn't work, how do you best learn, could you present what you were doing, do you need more help, do you need more videos? So we've kind of did a broad net, and what's going to help us is kind of drill down on individuals, on groups, on departments to get a sense of how do we start building our professional learning continuum for the entire next year, not just in August, not just November, but for all the PL hours, for all the days that we have, and then also what kind of resources do we need to provide for that is not necessarily available during the regular PL dedicated time.
Just to kind of speak to what Matt was saying about teacher leaders. So we at the elementary level often do at our faculty meeting time some professional development for technology. So I'll kind of speak to what we've been doing at West. We have a core group of teachers that are really our leaders, that have really stepped up to the plate and are really our experts. So we're using them to teach our other teachers. So for our trainings, we have been offering a lot of choice. We usually survey the teachers first to see what their needs are, what their levels are. So, not just saying I need help with Google, but a little more, what do you need? Advanced, beginner, kind of where are you? And then the teachers get to choose. They get to choose where they go. They get to choose what kinds of things they use. And then also kind of that idea of videos that you had brought up about students, we offer the same for teachers. So if you can't attend a session or you attended and you need to watch it again, we have resources for them to go back and watch videos again.
And then there are also plenty of opportunities to provide training right here, right now. For example, a teacher might say, I'd like to learn how to use Google Classroom to incorporate and make my whole process more efficient. I was working with a teacher the other day that said that, and I said, well, fine, what are you going to do right now? And he said, well, I was going to hope to use it, but I don't know how. I said, well, we're going to do a training right now live with your class. And he thought, well, it must be more complicated than that, and the reality is it isn't. But to get him over that, I guess I shouldn't say this, to get this teacher over this mental hump, it was just a little bit of hand-holding, and then he realized it's not that hard, but I need that little bit of support right here live while I'm using Google Classroom in this case. So the just-in-time training helps a lot as well.
Just to echo what Rob was saying, there's a lot of spontaneous training going on where a teacher will see you and ask a quick question. You can show them exactly right then and there how to use it, and you really have to kind of teach them how to take risks sometimes too with the technology, and convince them that it's a good idea. And that being said, I think it's going really well at Saks, and a lot of teachers are jumping on the technology bandwagon, especially as the technology grows there.
And lastly, at Saks, we've been working with the instructional leaders to make sure that our vision of where we want the teachers to go aligns with where they need their teachers to go. And they kind of guide us, especially with over 100 teachers there, of which teachers are ready to kind of bring their teaching to the next step. And so that's been incredibly helpful to work kind of hand in hand with them on developing the staff.
So listening to that, I just want to build off of one of the goals in our district technology committee is differentiated professional learning. And that team has been having really good conversations about, well, how do we create a digital space for teachers where they can go and find the type of support that they need. Some ideas of, for example, even a sort of a yellow pages of which teachers are experts in which areas that you might be able to reach out to. and get a peer support or have a peer conversation about using some resources, but also, as Stephanie was sharing, creating a repository or a collection of video clips and training sessions that teachers can access on their times, where they may be able to do it from home or someplace else. So we offer that opportunity for ongoing and personal professional growth.
One other question. Are you seeing, and maybe this is a question for Gary too, as we're hiring new teachers, are they getting a lot more of that in the university setting so that the new teachers that we bring on are able to also sort of help bring, sort of the more experienced teachers, bring the technology, teaching the older teachers who have the experience in the classroom but maybe not the tech side of it?
What's interesting, and I'm just going to respond to that, Deanna, because part of what we've been working on the District Technology Committee is identifying the programs that we need to make sure all of our new teachers are aware of. So when new teachers come on board, they oftentimes haven't had training in Power School. They haven't had training in Talent Ed. They haven't had training with our RTI. They haven't had training even with smartboards in some cases. So they may be coming in with their own technology background, but it's once again using the curriculum that drives our instruction and making sure that they're aware of how to utilize all the tools that we do have within our school first, and then it's the curriculum, and then it's the learning, and how do they move forward. So I do think that we have people that are coming in that are certainly quick learners and move very fast and pick things up very quickly, but we also have to identify that we just can't take for granted that they know all of these systems. And so we have spent a lot of time training staff on how to use our Talent Ed, which is our teacher and evaluation professional growth plan. So people need to understand how they can operate that system. Power Teacher, people need to understand how do you utilize Power Teacher and what are the tools behind it. So we have to start thinking of that as well, and identifying those areas to train them in before they can even get to those higher levels.
Okay. Well, it's just, I think, it's so exciting where this could go, and we're just sort of in the infancy. It's not the infancy because I've seen some amazing things at the elementary school and the collaborative efforts at SACS and the math class, and it's just the possibilities are so exciting, and I think it's exciting to see where the educators will take it, because that's kind of where. You take the technology, but it's really the teachers, and so you need to bring them both together. And so your jobs are so important, and we're so fortunate to have you in the district. I'm guessing not every district has all of you as resources, and we really appreciate all the efforts you spend on behalf of getting our teachers and our kids the richest educational experience they can possibly have. So thank you.
I did just want to add one thing, because I've had the opportunity to listen in on some of their coaching sessions with teachers, and they're often talking with the teachers about what is the student outcomes. Right. And so they're always starting with what are the student outcomes, and then they're working backwards to try to help identify the tool that they might be able to bring that student outcome to a new level. So they do always start with where do they want your students to end, and they're talking with an ELA teacher or social studies teacher. What are the essential questions, and what are the enduring understandings, and where do you want your students to end at this unit of study, and then let's work through it and try to figure this out together. So it's never just, I think you should use this Nearpod because this will be great. It's really talking about those student outcomes.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, Maria?
Just one more question. I had someone emailed me and they asked about, or they said to go back to the sleep kind of health issue, something about the routers in the schools and the level of, I don't know what comes out of routers, EMFs or something. But after that cell tower hearing last week, there were quite a few parents that were concerned about that. Is that anything you're looking at as far as exposure to, I don't know what they were calling it, non-ionizing something, coming out of routers in schools? Are other schools talking about this? As we increase the number of routers, and the World Health Organization supposedly has recent research out there. Is that something we're looking at?
I have not had any conversations to date about routers and health concerns.
Okay.
It certainly is something which I could have a conversation with a DTS about and see whether that's been something that they've heard about. But I have not heard any conversations either in any of my professional groups or in any of my readings right now.
There were a few parents that said things at that hearing, even though they were talking about the cell towers, did refer to the school Wi-Fi.
Okay.
So,
I'll have to look into it.
thanks.
Thanks.
I would imagine they'd be similar in our own homes as well.
Well, except we don't have 30. I think that's what they're concerned about, the number.
No, it'd be interesting. Anyone? Penny?
Just one final question on the BYOD, and Tom started talking about it a little bit, but being basically 1 year through it, are there going to changes that we're going to make it in next year? And what are our goals with that program, if any? I mean, it sounded like you were just debriefing people recently.
You don't need a mic.
The debrief with the staff that we just put out is hot off the press. I mean, we're still kind of collecting that information. That was just distributed last Thursday at the 1 RPL. I think there's an opportunity to continue the discussion for BYOD specific, what worked, what didn't, what are the goals for next year, so that, like we said, we can kind of focus on that. So that's kind of in the works, and we're working on it. The very broad-based questions of PL, so that we can kind of identify some common themes, either by departments or by individuals. So we started that process recently.
So just to say that when you finish that process up, I'd love to hear, it could be in Friday notes or something, what your takeaway was.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
It'd be great to share.
What was it, about 5 or 6 years ago that we were touring schools, right? Looking at one-to-one programs and devices and things.
And having done those tours, I have to say, I've been very impressed with how smoothly the rollout seems to have gone at New Canaan High School, because some of the other schools, but it was a while ago, it struck me as a little bumpier.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that's it. So thank you very
Thank
much,
you all.
Matt. It
Have a
was
great
great.
night.
Really great. Okay. And you may all go home now. You don't have to wait for, thank you for your time.
Unless you want to stay for the enrollment report.
Yeah.
But the board, that's why the board changed the agenda to begin with, so that you didn't have to.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda, I'll give you guys a minute to clear out. All right, so the next item on our agenda is the enrollment report with Mr. Cass.
Thank you. In your places, there's a stapled 2-page handout. And we'll take a look at the top sheet first. I wanted to provide you with an update here on May 1st of what enrollments would look like if school started tomorrow, for example. So we have the current enrollment at each of the elementary schools, and we're really looking at the number of sections based on the enrollment. We've moved forward all the grades. We plugged in kindergarten numbers to date, and this is what it looks like. Thought it would be interesting to see that. Our enrollment at the elementary level is down a bit. In looking at the section sizes, school started tomorrow. I see one section at South School that might be slightly over the guidelines. No other grades there. But we would be starting with fewer sections than we have this year. The second page is kind of the bigger picture, so we can look at enrollment at the elementary level, the middle school level, and the high school level. This is the enrollment projection page you're usually used to seeing. It shows a total enrollment at the elementary school projected for next year. If school started tomorrow, 1,536 students, which is off our projection, probably 59 students. It's the only level that is down from projections. But it's still early, and we're still, it's May 1st, we're still registering kindergartners. You never know where that number is going to go, but we are monitoring it very closely. Sachs Middle School, the enrollment is up over projections by 11 students as we speak right now, and the high school at 1321 is also about 12 students over the projection should we start school tomorrow in terms of next year. We meet as a team to really review these numbers every 2 weeks, and we will do that right through the summer until we make final decisions, until we have our numbers settled, particularly kindergarten, always the hardest grade to predict. So this was our first bite out of the apple there.
Does anyone have any questions? Penny?
So, Gary, did you happen to look at how low we might have been for kindergarten at this time last year?
Last year, at this time, we had 273 kindergartners registered,
And then we ended up with?
and we ended up with about 273.
Oh, okay.
And this year, we are 26 below that as we speak.
Any other questions? Well, it's early. I don't have any. Yeah, that kindergarten number is always shifting, so.
When's the deadline for registration for, when is the suggested deadline?
You want to speak into the,
Oh, sorry. When is the suggested deadline for kindergarten registration?
When is it
I
suggested?
mean, when do they say, please have it in by X date? Or is that already
Like
passed?
now.
Now.
Yesterday.
Okay.
Now, registrations are continuing. People are still moving in.
Right.
They're making their decisions, and so we really don't think we're settled on the numbers until when we look at them in the summer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then what about last year? I mean, I feel like there were so many new sophomores that came into the high school and freshmen that were coming from private schools, and how do you gauge? I mean, because I feel like last year we got a huge number, at least in the freshman class. Did we or didn't we?
You normally don't see the new families to New Canaan arriving until that June or July.
Right.
And that's usually that time period that we're watching and really making sure that we meet on a regular basis, because that's where those numbers grow. So all of the elementary schools have had their kindergarten orientation at this time, so that tends to pull a lot of people that are currently in New Canaan. It doesn't speak for the people that are moving into New Canaan that will have those kindergartners that will join us in the fall. And then there will be still new families, but you don't tend to see those numbers shifting until June and July, and then certainly in August we'll get another large influx of people that will move to the community. So we track it very carefully and continue to update it regularly. Within 2 weeks, these numbers could shift dramatically. It's just unpredictable at this time.
Penny?
Do you actually keep statistics of number of students that we get that are new to the district every year? I've never seen them. I don't know if we keep them or not.
New to the district, probably.
Families that moved
Yeah,
in.
it's
versus-
probably kept at school level.
The school level keeps that.
Yeah.
So they will be able to respond that there might be 40 new, students that arrived, and it's, 25 new families or 30 new families to our school. So they tend to track all of that information because they all do new to New Canaan orientations. So they're well aware of who those new families are that are moving in an elementary school, grades 1 through 4, and then at the middle school, it's really that 5 through 8. And then certainly they offer that at the high school as well. The guidance really takes that over because they're usually looking for transcripts and other areas and making sure that they can put the kids into the right courses. But that usually is tracked at the school level. Although probably with our new software that we utilize, we probably could track it at that district level as well. It just seems to be more something that the schools take such a vested interest in because they want to welcome all of these new families to New Canaan and introduce them to our schools.
I was just wondering if there were any patterns or anything, more or less, but obviously. we
I
haven't
think it's
looked at
too
it that
early
way.
right now. Usually it's during the summertime where you can look at where we were last year in comparison to this year. So I know last year we were about the same of new families to New Canaan as we were a year ago.
Okay.
But right now it's way too early for us to predict that.
Right. And if you want to look for patterns over time, you can actually see that as the year-to-year projections. Because if you read through, follow a grade, and you'll see that it'll go up or down, and all of that is due to your net in migration or net out
Right.
migration. So you can really see, how many are coming in versus going out on a 3 to 5 year rolling average just by follow a grade on the projections, and you'll see that.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Anyone else? Maria?
Do
you track students withdrawing from the schools but staying in town and going to private schools and vice versa, leaving private like St. Luke's and then coming to the public schools? Is that something you keep track of?
I think it's captured in Power School because when a student leaves the district, it asks us where they're going because there are reporting requirements with the state. And the same when they enter our district, we record where they came from so that we know where to contact for transcripts or whatever other information is there. I don't know that we've done much with it, but it is captured if we were to want to do something like that.
Mm-hmm. Just wondering if there's any kind of trends, I don't know, as the schools get better.
Yeah, what I think our demographers told us to anticipate a bit was when the Saks renovation and addition is completed, to anticipate that some students may return to Saks that are currently going to other schools because of the auditorium renovation, the new wing, and it's a bit of a science bent to it, and the fact that it's the performing arts areas that are all being renovated. So the demographers share that in their experience, when such renovations and additions occurred, that it would draw students back in. We will be finishing in the fall, so we'll keep an eye on things. Yeah, we'll find out.
It might be your lag.
It may be, because we're going to begin the year, continuing that work on the arts areas inside the building.
Mhm.
And it really will be finished in the fall of next year. So that'll be interesting to watch.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Gary. All right. Moving on, you have before you a consent agenda. Could I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Jen, second. Brendan, all those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. There is no one from the public here, so I will move on. Announcements and future business, Dr. Lutzy.
Sure. As Ms. Richardson said in the beginning, I just want to congratulate the folks with the color run and the great success that they had. It's the 50th anniversary of the New Canaan High School Scholarship Foundation. And really just to say how just impressive it is that this foundation in its 50th year has sort of had a bit of a re-energizing and rebirth, and just how powerful it is and how so many people. I had the blessing or curse of standing at the blue color station. So as you mentioned, I do still have blue powder in my ears. But as that was the final station, as people were coming through, many of them said just how wonderful the event was. And one even said that they felt this was the best thing the New Canaan had ever done. So really, what a testament to all of that great work. And it's the best part of it for me, certainly, and I think for all of us, is that all of that work benefits families, students in New Canaan who need the help. And that's really the mission of the Scholarship Foundation, is to help students who live in New Canaan and help them with their costs of higher ed after they leave high school. And what a great cause to bring out to have such a wonderful day and bring out so many wonderful people. So thank you for that. Our AP.
I just wanted to add, I'm guessing that next year's event will be even bigger because the buzz around it is so big. Everybody's so excited about it, so.
And I'll stand at the red color station instead of the blue one next year. 'Cause to be covered in blue paint, to be covered in blue paint prior to a Darien game is not a good thing for the New Canaan superintendent. Okay. The AP tests started at the high school today. So if you see a student who looks a little dazed, be nice and be kind to that student, because the hard work of the year all goes in. I'm watching Spencer smile a bit. It's all demonstrated as they take the assessments. Our students generally do very, very well. They feel very well prepared going into the assessments. And so my advice to them, of course, is to take a deep breath, relax, get a good night's sleep, and be confident in what you already know. And I'm sure they'll do great. We continue our SPAC testing in different spots. And just to say, last piece is that this is such a wonderful time of the year in New Canaan. There are art shows, music, concerts, events going on all over. So as the weather gets nicer and people come out, I would invite everybody, whether they have a child or not, to go to see what's going on in the schools, because they are just energizing opportunities to see what the young people of New Canaan are doing. Coming up at our next meeting on May 15th, we may have a senior internship update. We'll see if we do it there or at the following meeting. We are going to have a capital projects update by Dan Clark, who's our new facilities director, and John Perna, who's been with us for a bit. They're going to come to share with us progress on this year's capital projects, and then also talk a bit about the planning for the summer for the next year's capital projects. It's statement of accounts, so it's the second meeting of the month, and we will have executive session, talk about personnel. There we have it. Thank you.
Okay, so if I could get a motion to adjourn. Penny, second. Tom, all those in favor? Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.